And now we are all recording. So nice to see you all. So while we wait for folks to check in and check our tech issues here, if you wouldn't mind going ahead and introducing yourselves in the chat so we can see who's here with each other. You can connect and see how this beautiful campaign is strong and statewide. So, which is very, very exciting. And we'll just give that another minute. Really nice to see all of you. So Jessica, the gray box is, I think it's okay, but it's still visible at the top of the screen. I don't know if you can make it go away altogether. No, now we've got 3 gray boxes. Oh, now you're down to 2. One more. Okay, fantastic. Oh, no, now they're back. I don't know what's happening. Okie doke. Welcome, everybody. Folks are still joining us. Everybody who just signed on, please go ahead and introduce yourselves in the chat. I wish we had time for all of us to introduce ourselves personally, but this is the best we can do with such a wonderful big group on here tonight. And we're just going to get started in a minute so that we can keep this meeting to just 1 hour. We don't want to keep you over time. Again, my name is Lisa, and I'm a volunteer leader with Mothers Out Front. Okay. Great, we've still got. So can we go to the next slide, please? We'll just get started now. All right, here's our agenda for tonight. We're going to do a quick overview of the Renewable Heat Now legislative package, which some of you are already very familiar with. Oh, there's another gray box appearing. I don't know what the problem is. Oh, thanks for removing that. Okay. With the addition of the last bill in the package that we've all been waiting for, which finally has a name and a bill number, which is the Gas Transition and Affordable Energy Act. Then we're going to have some report backs from some of the wonderful teams out there. We're going to celebrate our Renewable Heat Now champions. We're going to get a strategic insight into the budget process and our strategy as regards to the budget. And then we're going to have a little action at the end. So thanks for joining us. Please stay all the way to the end because if you can, because we're going to take some actions tonight. Okay, next slide, please. So a quick reminder, the Renewable Heat Now campaign is a wonderful grassroots campaign built of many groups and individuals. We have a lot of different kinds of groups. We have sort of policy experts and legal experts. We have people who are doing implementation on the ground. And you are very, very welcome to be a part of it. Okay. Oh, it sounds like my audio is not good. That's not good. How's now? Am I okay? Okay,
Yes.
great.
Yeah, you're back.
Okay, good. Please let me know because I sound fine to me. Okay, so real quick, the quick overview for everybody, and especially those who might be new to this call tonight, and you're very welcome. Thank you for being here. We are proposing a package of bills that will help us to decarbonize New York's buildings because our buildings are the single biggest source of greenhouse gases in the state. And so in order to do that, we are going to start by passing the All Electric Building Act. This law, when it is signed into law, will make it so that new buildings cannot get a building permit after 2023 unless they are all electric. We also have the Advanced Building Codes Appliance and Equipment Efficiency Standards Act. This is a wonderful bill. It's a little, has a, not the world's best name, but basically it says that appliances sold in New York, appliances and equipment will have to meet higher efficiency standards. And that alone will save New Yorkers billions of dollars over the next 10 years or so. And it's also talks about their building codes. So next year, a new building code has to pass. And this is basically saying that when they pass the new building code, they're going to have to take into account the greenhouse gas emissions from those buildings. We also have the brand new bill, which I'm going to talk about a bit more on the next slide. It now has a wonderful name. It's called the Gas Transition and Affordable Energy Act. This is the geekiest, wonkiest bill in our package. But basically, we have a law in New York that regulates the utilities. It's called the Public Service Law, and it basically says what the utilities have to do. And up until now, it has said that the utilities, it's in the best interest of New Yorkers for the utilities to give us gas. And when we've tried to ask the government of New York to transition, help us transition off of gas, they've said, well, there's nothing we can do because this law gets in the way. It says we have to give everybody gas who wants gas. So we have understood that we have to reform that law, and we have to do some planning because we can't just get off of gas tomorrow. And we have to make sure that as we get off of gas, that there's a transition and a plan that makes sure that energy is affordable for everyone. And that's what this bill does. Finally, we have the fossil-free heating and tax credit, the fossil-free heating tax credit and sales tax exemption. There's lots of different ways to electrify buildings, but the best way and the most efficient way is with geothermal heat pumps or ground source heat pumps. But those are very expensive. So these laws would help make those more affordable. And that doesn't just benefit the person who owns the building or lives in the building, it benefits everybody because it reduces emissions, it improves air quality, and it helps us to have a stable electrical grid that will help support all these electric buildings and electric cars that we're proposing. And finally, the roof of this little house of legislation is the money, the $1 billion a year that we're going to need to make this transition affordable for everyone. So next slide. Okay. So a little bit more about this Gas Transition and Affordable Energy Act. When you come to our previous meetings, we talked about this as the Fossil Free Utilities Act, and we always said, well, that's the name we're going to call it until it has an official name. So now this bill has been introduced by Senator Liz Krueger on the Senate side, and on the Assembly side by Pat Fahey. And you'll notice here that it doesn't yet have an Assembly number. We're really expecting that number any day. But for now, we can just see the Senate number, and you can direct your Assembly people to that number in the meantime. And this is basically saying, as I said before, we need a plan to transition off of gas, and we need to make that affordable. And so this directs the Public Service Commission to make that plan so that we can start to really realize this dramatic energy transition that we all need in our buildings to preserve a livable climate and meet the state's climate goals. And that's right. Thank you, Andra. As it says in this beautiful picture, this is some of us a few years ago at the Public Service Commission saying we need heat pumps and no more pipelines. The next slide. Okay. Most of you here probably have already connected with your regional lobby team. These are the wonderful groups of folks in every part of New York who are meeting with legislators asking to pass this bill package, asking the legislators to co-sponsor each of these bills and asking them to help get these bills into the budget. which Liz is going to talk about in a minute. If you have not, though, already joined your local team and connected with the folks in your region, please follow the link in the chat and sign up on the Google form, and your team will know how to get in touch with you to invite you to an upcoming meeting with either one of your state senators or state assembly people, or maybe several meetings. Next slide. Okay, this is the most fun part of our evening, in my opinion. We are going to celebrate the amazing success that we're having. So let's stop sharing so we can all see each other's faces. And we are going to take a quick minute to celebrate. So if you're not familiar with the Zoom emojis, if you run your cursor over your screen, you'll see where it says reactions. If you click on reactions, you get a choice of some lovely little emojis. So we're going to use those now to celebrate. So if you have already connected with your regional lobby team, please give a thumbs up emoji. Wow. Look at all these people connecting across New York State. That's very exciting. Okay, terrific. So the next celebration, if you have scheduled a lobby meeting with one of your legislators, then let's see the hands clapping emoji. Awesome. Okay. If you have attended a lobby meeting, let's see the heart emoji. Beautiful. Love it, love it, love it. And finally, if you have gotten, oh, not finally, there's two more, sorry. If you have convinced your legislator to co-sponsor any of these bills, let's see the wow face. Very nice, very nice. I love it, I love it. I'm imagining next month's meeting when all of us will have the wow face up. Okay, and finally, if you've gotten a legislator to include a bill or funding in their budget priorities, then hit the celebration reaction, which looks like this. We don't know yet. Yeah, right, exactly. I see you, Valdi, shrugging. We're not sure yet what our legislators are exactly going to do, but that's a perfect segue to what Liz is going to talk about later with our budget process. Well, I'd like to give you guys all a huge round of applause. This is just amazing work, and all of you are kicking serious climate ass out there. Okay, are you allowed to say that? I hope so, because I just said it. So now, while we're still looking at each other, we're going to do a few report backs. Very short report backs from a couple of teams who've been out there meeting with legislators, meeting with staffers, and have a quick report back, just 1 minute each. And we'll start with Melissa Carlson from the Rochester area team.
We met today with Austin Ponce, who was the rep staff for Sarah Clark Assembly, and he was very amenable to what we were talking about. He asked if there was a priority, and we said, no, all the bills are important. And then he said, how does the 1 billion compare to the 15 billion package? And we said, it's all together, it's all good stuff. And she does a lot of children focused bills, daycare, stuff like that. And we said, this is for the children, this is going to provide them jobs doing this, all this rehab work, and it's going to make their climate better. So it's all the package with her concerns. And he sounded like it would be an easy task. He thanked us for making his job easier.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Melissa. Next, we'll go to Anshul Gupta from the Westchester team. And I believe they just met with Andrea Stewart Cousins.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, you sound great.
Okay, so yes, I don't have a report on that meeting yet. So this was our second meeting. We have 3 more planned, and 1 is in the works. I have one request. Assemblyman Stephen Otis is very sort of sympathetic, but we don't have any constituent in his district. So if you can find us one constituent to initiate the process of meeting, then we can pile on him. And the second update, Assemblyman Abinanti's office warned us that there are these form letters going out, which are outnumbering our letters. And this was the meeting with her, I forgot anyway, someone from her office. It's not the legislative director, not the chief of staff, but someone. And she said that even if you convince us that this is a great idea, we can only act on it if we have more letters supporting the bill than opposing. And right now, that's not the case. And I've prepared a report in response to this letter, which I will share shortly in the chat.
Thanks so much, Anshul. That's great intel. I didn't know there was a rule that legislators could only support something if they got more letters.
No, this was her position.
Right, I know, I
yeah,
understand.
yeah.
That's good to hear. And next we'll have a report back from Ellen Banks from the Buffalo team.
Right. Hello, everyone. So we have met so far with staffers from 3 Senate offices and 3 Assembly, and we have 2 more scheduled for Assembly members. We met with Leader Peoples-Stokes, Legislative Director, with Bill Conrad and Monica Wallace, who are both relatively new to the legislature. In the Senate, we met with Senator Tim Kennedy's staff. He is co-sponsor of the codes and one of the bills, fossil-free heating. And we met with Republican Ed Raff, whose staffer was considerably positive towards at least some of the bills in the package and very well informed. And we met with Sean Ryan, Senator Sean Ryan's staff. So we're waiting for Rivera and McMahon in the next couple of days. And no one made a very firm commitment. They asked some very good questions. I think for the most part, they were tending yes, but not committing yet.
Thank you so much, Ellen, for that report back. I just want to make some space to say hello to Andrew Epstein, who is the staffer for Assemblywoman Gallagher, the prime sponsor of the all-electric buildings bill. And he wanted to just pop in and say hey to all of you. And so Andrew, are you ready to just quickly say a few words to the folks out there? Maybe not.
He said he's on a subway.
He's on a subway. Okay, so that's not going to work. But we have a great video to show you of the best example I have ever seen of a constituent making an ask of a staffer. This happened in a meeting with the Rochester team, who met with a staffer for Assemblymember Meeks. And roll video. So it's sort of a win-win.
Yeah.
That, you know.
And can I just add to that I think the challenging news here is that the environmental injustices that have occurred have extremely harmed our Black and Brown communities. And the good news is that the Assemblyman has the opportunity to sign on to some bills that will reverse those harms. And so within and so there's this awesome rumor floating around, Miriam, that the Assemblyman has a very inclusive process in terms of figuring out what his legislative or budget priorities are. That includes the entire team. So I am hoping that if you guys have a staff meeting, that you will do more based on the harms that have been done to our Black and Brown communities. And I am a constituent of Assemblyman Meeks, that the bills will do more than make it into his pile, but really he will be challenged that if he does not have any climate solutions or heat solutions that reverse the harms that have been done to these bills into his list of priorities. So Miriam, can we count on you in Vivian's absence to boldly carry these bills into the Assemblyman's office and say, we need these as a part of our legislative and budget priorities? Can we count on you for that, Miriam?
You got it, Kim. I was going to give him this before this meeting, but I said I'll take notes on it and then I'll walk it over. So he'll make sure to get it and read it for today.
When you drop it off, say Kim Smith told me to put this in front of you.
He's aware.
Okay. If that didn't make your day, I don't know, then I don't know what to say. I've watched it 3 times and I plan on watching it a few more times before I go to bed. And I was even in the meeting. All right, so that was the amazing Kim Smith, who is a constituent of Assemblymember Meeks. She's also on the Rochester City Council. Lucky Rochester to have such an amazing advocate serving the community there. What an amazing woman. So that's an example too of, when you're setting up these meetings, you can reach into your community to find community voices to join that meeting who might not be joining your weekly team meeting or whatever. People who can speak really well to the issue, who are a constituent, who understands what it takes to make an ask like that. So thanks so much to Matt Corona for setting up those meetings with his team and doing such a great job up in Rochester. Okay, well, that's it for me. And I'm going to turn it over to Jean Bergman for the next slide.
Well, hello, everybody. In the chat a few minutes ago, Jessica Adjale pointed out that we have already gotten 29 sponsors for the All Electric Buildings Act. And we're also looking for champions, our Renewable Heat Now champions, who are the assembly members and state senators who are going to have signed on or have indicated that they are going to sign on publicly, like by Twitter, to all of our bills. And so far we have 3 renewable heat champions: Assemblymember Anna Kellis, Senator Rachel May, and Senator Liz Kruger. So it's very exciting. It is amazing that these brilliant women have seized the moment and are going to carry these bills forward and set a standard. And one of the things that we can do as we're meeting with our legislators is to say, we are celebrating the renewable heat and climate champions that have agreed to promote this legislation. And we will continue to publicize and highlight them.
Want me to? No, I'm fine. Oh, wow. Look at that.
And that's it. Back to you, Lisa.
I think next is the one and only Liz Moran from Earth Justice to walk us through the budget process and that is informing our strategy now so much this month especially. So take it away, Liz.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Liz Moran, and I'm the New York Policy Advocate with Earth Justice. It's so great that we have Renewable Heat Now champions like the folks that were listed, because we are in such a critical phase of the legislative process, also known as budget season. New York's budget season lasts starting from early January through April 1st. The governor's proposed budget came out a few weeks ago in mid-January. So that's what we're working off of right now. So where are we? I'm going to take a moment to walk you all through this and also applaud you all for being involved in this process. This is a really complicated process, and we don't often see grassroots advocates, people in the communities impacted by the issues we work on, talking to legislators at this stage in the legislative process, because it's very complicated and not always easy to engage people. So the fact that you all have been engaged so far is really impressive and getting a lot done, as we can see by the champions that we've already identified and the number of co-sponsors we're getting on these bills. So, all right. This budget came out mid-January. So we know what we're working off of. We've got some good things to start. A number of the bills in the Renewable Heat Now package, while not the exact bills, but addressing some of the same topics, were included in the governor's proposed budget. That's a great place to start. It shows that Governor Hochul has some interest in addressing the issues that we know need to be addressed to electrify our homes and buildings and to get us on the right track to address the climate crisis. But we want to make it even stronger by getting our exact bills in the budget. So how do we do that? Well, you'll see on here that the next step in the phase is on February 17th. So once the governor's put out her executive budget proposal, that is the start of the negotiation process. Our state Senate and our state assembly also get to weigh in on this process by releasing their own proposed budgets. So they'll be amending what the governor has proposed and putting in their own versions of the budget so they can start negotiating for what the final budget will look like. So right now, what we're trying to do is get the Renewable Heat Now package into the one House budgets. We want the Senate and the Assembly on our side, so we are in the best position possible to make that final budget as strong as possible. So how do we do that? How do we get the Assembly and the Senate to include our package in their one House budgets? We do getting different members of the legislature to ask their leaders that they want these pieces in the budget. So one way to do that is through budget letters. Each member of the legislature has the opportunity to send their own letter to leadership, and we'll go over who all these people are in a minute, asking them or requesting for different pieces of legislation to be in the budget. So this is a really critical tool. The more legislators that are saying we want the Renewable Heat Now package in the budget, the better our chances will be to get that in the budget. So that's the stage we're in right now. February 17th is next week. We're at a really critical moment. So once those budget letters are in, we can anticipate that the one House budgets will probably be released sometime in early March. So then we'll know at that point whether or not our efforts were successful and we were able to pressure the legislature to include our Renewable Heat Now package in their one House budgets. So once the one House budgets are out, that's when the negotiations truly begin between the governor and the legislature. So we'll have 1 month left at that point before the final budget is due on April 1st. Now, even if we don't get everything we want in the one House budgets, that doesn't mean that our efforts can stop. We'll have to keep building. If we have our bills in the one House budgets, we'll have to continue urging the legislature to hold strong and make sure that in their negotiations, these pieces are included in the final budget. If the pieces that we want aren't included, we have to keep pushing and say, no, we're not going to sell for any less. We have to see all of these bills in our final budget. So that period of early March through April 1st is critical regardless of what we see in the one House budgets. But I think we're going to win here. And then lastly, once the budget is done, legislative session ends. I bring that up because the budget doesn't mean that all of our chances of getting these bills done is over. They also exist as standalone bills, and we could still get them done before the end of the legislative session. But it's great to do these things in the budget because it means it's guaranteed to get done. You've got all the critical parties to have a bill signed into law at the table. And and it just makes our lives easier. But we're advocates. We know that it takes hard work, so we'll be in it no matter what. So go on to the next slide and I'll walk everyone through who we have to be talking about here. All right, so Assembly and Senate leadership. Next to the governor, these are the two folks that have the most power in the legislative process. Assembly Speaker Carl Hastie and Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins. They both lead their respective houses, and ultimately they're going to be the ones represented at the negotiating table to hammer out the final budget. But they have to hear from other legislators. They are representing their bodies. So people we want to be talking to, members on key committees. In this particular instance, a lot of those legislators are going to be on the Energy Committee, the Environmental Conservation Committee, and the Housing Committee. We also want to make sure that we have powerful Democrats on our side. Both bodies of the legislature are now controlled by the Democratic Party, and there are legislators that are high ranking or senior. They've been in their bodies for a very long time, which means they're respected voices in their conferences. We're going to want people like that on our side. I'll name a couple examples. In the Senate, Senator Gianaris is the deputy majority leader. Very important to have someone like him on our side. On the Assembly side, we have Assembly Member People Stokes, been around a very long time. Great to have people like that on your side. There are many others. Those are just a couple. We also need to make sure that we have buy-in from legislators across every region of the state. That's the politics of New York State, right? We often hear about the upstate, downstate dynamic. We need to demonstrate that it doesn't matter what region of the state we're in. What matters is that our homes and buildings are safe and healthy for us and move us off of fossil fuels. And every region in the state is going to be impacted by the climate crisis, right? So it's important that legislators hear from everybody in order to get this done. So with that, we are now, I'll direct the next slide. It's going to be time for you to reach out to your representatives. So we have an ask of you. As you heard in the fantastic video that Lisa shared, it is easy and fun to make the ask. So most of you should have in your inbox directions to make these calls and to register. But we're asking for you tomorrow or on Monday to call your representatives and ask them to put the Renewable Heat Now package in their budget letters to leadership by February 17th. We have a ton of faith in you all. You've already done such great work. And like I said, it's so unique that you all are a part of this process because it's complicated. I don't think legislators hear too often from their constituents about specific items to be in their budget letters. Many members of the public don't know about this. So you guys are clued in now. You've got a powerful tool at your disposal. So thank you all so much. I'm going to pass this, I believe, back to Lisa so you can learn more about how to help us get this across the finish line.
I think maybe it's Andra taking this next part, isn't it?
That's right.
Go ahead, Andra. Take it away.
Thank you. So this following is an email action that everyone can take. Everyone who's on a lobby team, folks not on lobby teams, everyone in your household, all your friends. In the chat, I have put a link to send an email to leadership in the legislature. If you can click on that now, we can take a few moments and each send that email right now and get it out of the way. It's a super important email because it's setting up the leadership of the legislature to be aware of what is in the Renewable Heat Now legislative package. So if you can all take a moment now, click on that link and fill out that form. And maybe when you're done, you could pop in that you've completed it. And then when I see like, 10, 15 people are done, then I'll move on to my next ask. All right. I think we're safe to go on to the next slide now. So following this email effort that is going to be going blazing across the state in the coming days, and hopefully we will flood them with emails. On Tuesday, February 15th, we are going to have a call-in day to Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins and Assembly Speaker Carl Heastie. And by that time, they will have gotten hundreds and hundreds of emails about the Renewable Heat Now package. And now on that day, we're going to laser focus on telling them to include the entire package in their one House budget. And let me see, I can pop a link to sign up for that call-in day.
Here we go.
Edit.
got
Oh, I got it.
I got you. Oh,
That's all right. Thank you so much, but I pride myself on being speedy. Anyway, so now everybody can click on that spreadsheet, and the spreadsheet has everything that you will need on that call-in day. It has the little bit of background. It tells you the phone numbers. It gives you an alternate phone number if you can't get through. It gives you a very simple sample script, and you can scroll up and down and find a time slot that works for you and fill in your information. If everybody could take a minute now to go to that spreadsheet, I hope that we can fill in all the remaining slots. We'll be calling them every 5 minutes. It should be really impactful.
I hate to interrupt, but I seem not to be able to find the sheet that has time slots that I can put my name in.
Okay, so if you scroll, can you scroll up in the chat and see that there is an HTTPS Google Docs? Lisa, just put that in again. It should be the very last thing in the chat.
Andra, how are people going to remember that the time they signed up for?
We can send everybody a reminder. We can send a copy of the spreadsheet, and then they can check in the spreadsheet as a reminder. They could bookmark that spreadsheet so that they have it to refer to. And there's also, if you enter your phone number or an email, then the person who is above you on the list can give you a quick text or an email to say, okay, it's your turn now. However, I want to caution you, if you don't get a text or an email reminder from the person ahead of you in line, just go ahead and call anyway, because sometimes things come up and people forget.
I've used that link now twice, and I keep getting to a spreadsheet with all information about phone numbers and how to do it, but I don't see any place to put my name in.
So if you go down past line 11, is it possible for you to scroll down on that spreadsheet? Because it will be starting with lines 12 through 120. If you're doing it on your phone, it's super hard to see it. But if you go on your computer, it's a little easier.
Oh, that's the problem. I can't move in that spreadsheet. I don't have a slide bar to go up or down through it. I can go right and left, but I can't go up and down. And the only thing I can see is up to line 11.
So what works for me is if I go on, let's say line 11, and then I can scroll, use the roller on my mouse to scroll.
My roller on my mouse is dead, and I'm trying to do it with just paging down, using my up and down control buttons, and it won't go. I'm stuck at line 11.
Just
So
the first
anyway,
11 rows are frozen. And you might have a bigger zoom in, but if you want, I can temporarily, I don't know if I have access to edit the sheet, but if we were to unfreeze it, you would be able to scroll down.
okay, maybe we'll try that.
For whoever administrates the spreadsheet, do you want me to? unfreeze it?
Yep, I've got it.
Okay, cool.
So everybody, we're trusting all of you. Everybody has access to edit it so that you can edit, so you can enter your info. And yes, that's a great question. If you don't want to enter your phone number and don't know exactly when you'll be available, just make a call sometime on the 15th. This is
Sorry,
going
I
to
feel
be a
sorry
meeting.
for that. Oh, sorry, Andra.
That's okay. Go ahead.
I was saying I'm starting to feel sorry for that guy answering all those phone calls.
Well, I think what's really good is that this is a 1-2 thing. We have the information from the emails first, and then we have this very direct, focused message. So it won't be taking a very long time. And what you can also do up in the top part, I have a link to the legislative package that is live link in the background. In case they ask you for a bill number out of the blue, you can click on that and go to the place where all the bill numbers are available.
And we will send the link to this spreadsheet out again after this call.
Absolutely. Tomorrow we will send all the relevant links that you will need in an email to everybody who is registered for this Zoom. So we'll give it one more minute, and then after that, we'll move on to the Q&A. Or we can move on now because it's 7:45.
Yeah, let's go ahead. So thank you so much, Andra. This is such great organizing. And I'm just imagining the impact this is going to have when they get all these calls about the budget. So, and the reason, just a quick reminder that we're going to call on the 15th is that the legislators are putting in all their budget priorities on the 17th. So we want to get as much pressure on them as possible next week. Okay, especially on the leadership. This is so great. So we now have a little bit of time for questions and answers. You could type your question into the chat and I'll call on you. Can we go to the next slide as well? Just a cute little slide that is reminding us of how this amazing technology, heat pump technology, is going to be used to heat our buildings. If you don't have a heat pump already, you will sometime soon, we hope. So does anybody have any questions? We went over a lot of information. When we started this effort together a few months ago, it was just get your legislator to co-sponsor. But because we've been so successful and so many pieces of this package have entered the budget process, that means we have an unprecedented opportunity to get everything into the budget, which is why we're sort of having this meeting today to talk about this shift in the strategy. But the only reason we're shifting is because we're doing great. Okay. A question from Valdi. Let's see. Jonathan is asking, who is the team lead for the Albany Capital Region? That would be Mary Finneran and Joanne Coons and Alicia, I've forgotten Alicia's last name. Is anybody from the Albany team on the call today? If not, we can put you in touch with them. Okay, we'll make sure you get in touch with them, Jonathan.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Margot says, okay, I'm reading down here. Valdi wants to know, is there a sense of legislators' thoughts on funding, especially where the $15 billion will come from? The $15 billion is the New York Renews ask for climate, and that's a little bit beyond the scope of this meeting. But what we will say is that the $1 billion a year we're asking for is, we consider that to be part of that $15 billion ask, and New York Renews is on the same page with us about that. So, you know, if you're part of working with New York Renews asking for $15 billion in funding for climate justice work, then you're also asking for the funding for this package at the same time. Paul says, one assembly member asked us for a budget letter that has the full Renewable Heat Now request in it. I have only seen a letter for the All Electric Buildings Act from Emily Gallagher's office. Do we have something we can send him to include? Great question, Paul. What's tricky about that is these are sort of initiated by one assembly person to their colleagues. And since these bills have different prime sponsors, that would be challenging. We could certainly ask if there's any assembly member willing to put out such a letter for the full sign on. Right now, that doesn't exist. Maybe we can turn to one of those champions that we showed off earlier. So stay tuned for that. Andra's saying, a question from earlier, is there a limit in the number of bills legislators can advocate for in their budget letters? Yeah, I saw that. Liz, do you know if there's an answer to that question?
All right, can you repeat that question one more
Yeah,
time?
somebody wanted to know, is there a limit for how many bills a legislator can advocate for to go into the one house?
Aware of. Legislators sometimes will cap it for themselves in terms of they don't want to necessarily ask for too much. But I'm not aware of a specific cap.
Okay, that's good to know. So let's see. Paul has another question. 3 organizations that want to sign on, how do they do that? Paul, you want to unmute yourself, and or somebody want to unmute Paul? I'm not sure what you mean by sign on. Do they want to join
so
our?
we have, there's 3 different groups that have contacted me that want to sign on and be a part of the Renewable Heat Now campaign. And I was looking for some, form for them to fill out, and I could only find a form for individuals to join. So for organizations, I was wondering if there's a separate form or if there's some other process.
There is a process, and one of us will follow up with you about that. There's no process for people to just champion this bill package. Anyone is welcome to do that. Any organization is welcome to do that. But to join the Renewable Heat Now campaign, which involves a certain amount of commitment of meeting time and strategies, there is a simple process to join that. So we can follow up with you, Paul. Thanks for that question. Great question. Okay. Are there specific dollar amounts attached to each bill? Margot wants to know. And wondering about each bill's impact as a piece of the legislator's pie. That's a very sophisticated and good question. We had that question specifically from an Assembly member, Lepardo, earlier this week about the geothermal tax credit and sales tax exemption. I think we do not have the exact math on that, on the impact of each one individually. Does anyone else have a better answer for Margot about the bill impact as far as the budget is concerned? I will say, Margot, a partial answer is that because so many pieces of this are already in the governor's budget, it's a little bit less the onus on us to exactly specify that, but it's still not a bad question, right? Anybody on our core team want to jump in with an answer to Margot?
I have a quick, this is Jessica Adjale from Alliance for a Green Economy.
I actually wanted to maybe throw it to Liz, who might be able to explain why we're putting policy in the budget. So usually we think of a budget as, about numbers. And yes, we have a $1 billion budget ask, which has a financial impact on the state. And we have these tax credit and sales tax exemption bills, which have a financial impact. But the rest of the bills don't have a budget impact. And I think for people who haven't been through the sausage making of the budget process in New York, it's kind of counterintuitive that we would be putting stuff in the budget, like, massive lines of policy text in the budget. So thought maybe we could see if Liz wanted to explain that a little bit more.
Yeah,
if you can.
absolutely. No, and you summarized it quite well, Jessica. So there are some financial implications, like Jessica said, to some of the bills that are part of the Renewable Heat Now package. In many cases, it's actually potential savings to the state, but there's still a financial tie. But that's not the case for all of the bill package. There are some bills that don't have financial implications inherently. For example, the All Electric Buildings Act wouldn't cost the state anything. So why would it be in the budget? The budget is a vehicle to create a three-way negotiation between the legislature and the governor's office. So sometimes priorities of the governor, stuff that might be maybe a little bit tricky to get done as a standalone bill, will end up in the state budget process. It's almost a way to expedite things as well. This year, I imagine a lot of you are aware of this already, it's going to be an election year. Legislators are going to want to get to town fast, which means there will be this hustle to get as much done as possible before the scheduled end of session in early June. So our chances to get our bills done increase by getting them done through the budget process. So it's more reasons for why policy items tend to be done in the budget if there aren't financial implications to them. So I hope that kind of explains things. But that's also why we're saying it's ideal for us to get these bills done in the budget, but it's not our last chance at getting them done if they aren't done in the budget.
That's a great explanation. Thank you for that, Liz and Jessica. I did want to say, if any group wants to show their support as a group, they should create a bill memo from their group for the whole Renewable Heat Now package. And I think most of you have received an email with an explanation and some sample bill memos. This is another way to show support. We also have some sign-on letters for groups circulating for different parts of the state. So Paul, if you haven't seen any of that, we can follow up with you about that too. So there's multiple ways for individuals and groups to get involved. So speaking of getting involved, we're going to close up the meeting now and make sure you all get out of here on time. We're going to just show the last couple of slides to say that, the people power that is being built around this campaign is really amazing. This is not the easiest campaign. It's fairly technical parts of it. It's not just a simple up or down, yes or no. There's these 5 different bills and there's the funding. So the power that is being built around this package is amazing, and that's because of all of you. You are incredible. And a reminder that we need to keep building that people power. So invite 2 more people to get involved in your regional lobby team. Send them the link, tell them that meeting with their legislators is fun and empowering and you want them on your team. We're going to have our next monthly Power Hour tentatively scheduled for March 8th. And there's a sign up link going to go into the chat right now if it hasn't already for you to sign up. If that date has to be changed, you'll get a notification. Always hard to find a date that works for everybody. Reminder, we have the call relay on Tuesday, February 15th. So if you weren't able to access the Google Sheet, just make sure that you check your email and you'll see the instructions for how to call on the 15th. And together we're going to build the people power we need to win this amazing campaign, which is going to improve people's lives. Literally every building that gets weatherized, every building that gets electrified, and the planning, it's going to impact people's lives now and for, well into the future. So it couldn't be more important. So next slide. Thank you very, very much, everybody. Have a wonderful, beautiful evening. And together, let's win a fossil-free New York and renewable heat now.